The bitter smell of smoke was still clinging to my hair, clinging to the black wool of my robes. When she walked into my courtroom, not slid, not shuffled, but strutted, like she was collecting an award, not facing arraignment. There I sat, Judge Eleanor Vance, gavel in hand, staring down at the woman who'd tried to burn me alive just 1 week prior. The sheer, unmitigated nerve of it made my jaw ache, but Brenda Bryn Kincaid had absolutely no idea where she'd landed, you see. Because when you commit federal arson against a sitting district judge, honey, you better pray she doesn't get the chance to return the favor, legally, of course. And trust me, I was about to serve up a 5-course meal of statutory justice with a generous side of Rico, all while trying not to let the tremor in my hand betray how completely broken I still was. This HOA queen thought destroying my home would silence me, but instead, she just ignited a fire under me that would consume her entire criminal enterprise, every illegal fine, every fraudulent claim, every single intimidation tactic. I had it all documented, every single piece of it. 6 months before my 1920s Craftsman became a crime scene, I was already a ghost just burying my husband David, after a brutal 18-month dance with lung cancer. 25 years of marriage gone, and our house in Willow Creek Estates felt like a silent tomb. Willow Creek used to be full of teachers, librarians, and blue-collar families. But then the Silicon Valley money moved in, tearing down modest ranches for those enormous, sterile glass boxes with 4-car garages and yoga studios. The old guard, people like Mr. Abernathy who'd been there since '62, watched their property taxes skyrocket while the newcomers complained about, well, everything. Enter Brenda Kincaid. Picture every entitled suburban stereotype you've ever despised. Then dress her in $300 athleisure. Give her a $4,000 Italian therapy dog. And a god complex the size of Texas. She'd only lived in the neighborhood for a year with her contractor husband. But she immediately declared her plan to elevate Willow Creek to its full potential, which, of course, translated to get rid of anyone who doesn't look like me. My first encounter with Her Majesty was the memorial fence. David and I had planned this 6-foot privacy barrier during his last months, a sanctuary where I could sit and watch the sunrise without prying eyes. The sweet, damp scent of his prize-winning climbing roses filled the air as I worked on the final post. Then the crunch of expensive boots on our granite path announced her arrival. "You must be the widow," she said. "No condolences, just a cold clinical assessment." "Judge Vance," I corrected, deliberately wiping the soil off my hands. "Right, the judge." She spat the word out like it was a cheap cocktail. "I'm Brenda, HOA president. We have a problem." Out came a pink tape measure, her weapon of choice. The metallic snap of it extending cut through the morning like a whip. 6 feet 2 inches, she declared, her lips pursed in manufactured disgust. "Our regulations clearly state 6 feet maximum. That's a 750 violation plus immediate removal." I stood up slowly, bones aching from grief and lack of sleep. "Show me the regulation, Brenda," I said, my judicial voice cutting through the morning fog. She shuffled through a leather portfolio for 5 minutes, producing nothing, because the regulation didn't exist, and my surveyor had ensured the fence was precisely 6 feet. "We'll see about that, Judge," she huffed, her spray tan clashing violently with the sudden red of her neck. That venom, that wasn't about the fence. Later that night, sipping David's favorite bourbon, I pulled up court records. Bingo. 3 years prior, Kincaid Premium Homes, her husband's company, had appeared before my bench trying to scam a 78-year-old immigrant out of $40,000 for emergency roof repairs that weren't needed. I'd ruled against them hard, including referring them for contractor fraud. This fence was pure petty revenge, but Brenda had made one critical, catastrophic error. She'd targeted a woman who'd spent 20 years sentencing murderers and fraudsters without flinching, a person who understood the legal system as intimately as she understood her own heartbreak. Within 2 weeks, she launched an all-out war, certified letters arriving daily, each more ludicrous than the last. Violation 1, unapproved decorative garden feature, David's small granite memorial stone reading "Love Grows Eternal." Violation 2, excessive bird feeding creating nuisance conditions. My single little feeder for the morning cardinals, David's favorite. Each letter demanded escalating fines, threatening liens and legal action. Clearly an intimidation campaign. But 20 years on the bench had taught me something crucial. Real HOA fines must be reasonable. They must be based on actual violations, and they must be documented in adopted bylaws. Brenda's letters were legal Swiss cheese. My judicial instincts kicked in when my neighbor, old Mr. Abernathy, knocked on my door. "Judge, she's systematically targeting people," he whispered. "Remember the Perez family? Find them out for their Virgin Mary garden statue. Called it non-conforming religious imagery. They had to sell and move." My heart sank. Single mom down the street fined for her kids' chalk art on their own driveway. The pattern crystallized. Hispanic families, elderly residents on fixed incomes, single mothers, and now a widowed judge who ruled against her husband's scams. This wasn't just petty. It was discrimination wrapped in bureaucracy, backed by fraudulent documentation. I'd stumbled into a criminal enterprise, but the personal blow came when she crossed the line into felony territory. While I was downtown, my security cameras caught her emergency property inspection, a legal authority that existed only in her delusional mind. She even pressed her face against my kitchen window, peering inside, trying to violate my last space of privacy. But the true crime, she deliberately left my back gate wide open. And when I returned home that evening, exhausted from hearing domestic violence testimony, my sanctuary was violated. Whiskers was missing, my 12-year-old Tabby, David's final gift, the cat who'd purred through chemo. 3 agonizing days later, the vet called. Whiskers was found, ribs broken, traumatized, injuries consistent with being chased by industrial lawn equipment. The security footage confirmed it. 1 hour after Brenda's illegal trespass, her landscaping crew arrived, chasing my cat through the open gate she'd left as an escape route. This wasn't harassment anymore. This was attempted murder of my family. That's when I called the only person I trusted, Agent Celia Ruiz, a retired FBI veteran who specialized in financial crimes. Celia didn't just bring cookies. She brought a file thick enough to choke a defense attorney. "Judge," she said, spreading photos across my table, "Brenda Kincaid doesn't exist. She's Sandra Martinez from Detroit, Rebecca Sterling from Phoenix. She's a professional community destroyer, operating under stolen identities, systematically infiltrating HOAs, embezzling funds. And then, this is the crucial part, torching high-value properties for insurance payouts. The architectural plans for my house, obtained through her husband's contracting database, were marked with detailed notes on electrical vulnerabilities and optimal fire acceleration patterns. She's been planning to burn your house down since day one," Celia concluded quietly. The harassment was the distraction. My kitchen instantly transformed into a federal war room. With Celia, Mr. Abernathy, and a ruthless former prosecutor named Marcus Chen, we built a legal machine designed for biblical annihilation. We hit her with everything: federal mail fraud, wire fraud, identity theft, animal cruelty, and most beautifully, a RICO conspiracy charge for systematic community destruction. Brenda's final, desperate sociopathic act came a week later, perfectly timed when I was at the courthouse. My military-grade security captured her husband, and a crew of arson specialists creating accelerant highways around my foundation. But the apex of her stupidity, she arrived with a news crew, claiming she'd called for a safety inspection, standing directly over the planted evidence of her own conspiracy. And then at 3:17 a.m., just hours after the last hearing, the explosion ripped through the silence, turning 25 years of memories into a towering inferno. My house was gone. 7 days later, Brenda Kincaid walked into my courtroom in an orange jumpsuit. My colleague, Judge Ramirez, called the court to order. The charges took 4 minutes to read. Attempted murder of a federal judge, first-degree arson, RICO conspiracy, identity theft, and systematic civil rights violations. When her public defender requested reasonable bond, Federal Prosecutor Chen stood up. "Your Honor, the defendant has operated under 6 false identities, stolen over $4 million, and attempted to murder a sitting federal judge by burning down her house while she slept. She is a domestic terrorist, but the scene that plays in my head on repeat, the one that gives me true peace, is the last one. Brenda, desperate, turned to me, defying Judge Ramirez. This isn't over, Judge Vance. You'll never prove I specifically targeted you for murder. The courtroom fell silent. I stood up, my robes feeling heavier than ever, and looked her dead in the eye. Mrs. Kincaid Martinez Sterling, whatever your real name is, the court finds your confession that this was indeed targeted harassment to be duly noted for sentencing purposes. Thank you for eliminating any remaining reasonable doubt. 2 years later, I'm standing in my rebuilt kitchen, whiskers purring like a cement mixer on my hip. Brenda got life without parole, and the $3.2 million in seized assets went to victims across 4 states, establishing the largest HOA fraud restitution in American history. Mr. Abernathy is now the HOA president, running things with total transparency. My house is gone, but David's memory and the justice we built live on. Here's my message for anyone battling an HOA nightmare. Document everything. Organize your neighbors. And remember, a bully only wins when a good person stays silent. Now tell me, what is the most outrageous, illegal thing your HOA has ever tried to pull? Drop a comment below. Let's share our war stories. And smash that subscribe button, because next week, we're taking down the city councilman who tried to seize an entire elderly community for his private vineyard. You won't want to miss that.